I started early.
There you go.
Okay. Welcome everyone to North Ogden City Council meeting. Meeting now is in order. We'll begin by an invocation and pledge allegiance by Carl Turner, our council member.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are very grateful for the blessings we have to live in this great community and city and to be able to participate in our government. We're grateful, Father, for the residents here of North Ogden. We ask you to please bless and watch over them. We're grateful for the opportunity we have to discuss the needs of the city, and we pray that thy Spirit will be here with us to help us understand what is best for this city. We're grateful for our freedoms and our liberties that we have, and for those who are defending those freedoms as they serve in the military, and also for our law enforcement and those of other service and public service that reach out to us. We ask you to bless us that we'll be civil tonight in this meeting, and that thy Spirit will help us to be kind, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Will you please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd ask everyone in the group to turn their cell phones off or put them on mute, including myself.
Thanks for the reminder.
We'll begin our meeting with item number 1. The meeting is now open for public comment. As you approach the podium, please state your name and your residence address.
My name is Al Trout. I live at 2670 North and 750 East. And I'm here just to sort of show my pretty face off to you guys. And see, years back, I haven't had a chance to meet you, and it's my fault for not being in here for other matters. But I've got something that is of concern to myself and a number of my neighbors, and I wanted to present that to you today. So that's why I'm here. And I've got a few packets of information. Can I pass those out to you folks?
To
each of the council members?
I assume that's okay, right?
That'd be okay? Okay. This has to do with the rezoning of the Powell property. And it's not on your agenda yet, but I want to make you privy to that.
Al, nice to see you. Usually I see you on the mountain.
So yeah, the trail's a pretty good place to meet.
Yeah.
Al, there's no money in here, Al.
Oh, there's a problem here. We'll pass. How about we pass the plate? You know. I want to first of all, this is an issue that I wasn't aware of, and my neighbors weren't aware of, until it actually has worked its way through the Planning Commission. And I finally was aware of it when I got a letter in the mail one day ahead of when I could issue written comments, and it about scared me to death. So we've been running around trying to get information and get up to speed on the situation, but it's not on your agenda. The county or the city planning commission will meet on this tomorrow. They've had a couple of meetings on it, and it may get passed tomorrow. If it does, it will come to you, and I wanted to be the first to give you some upfront information on what I found. And so basically myself and if those other ones that are in here on this issue, could you raise your hand? We're here in order to say that we very much are against the rezoning, and that we would like to show you our firm opposition and some of the reasons for it. You'll see in there a letter to the Planning Commission, and that's going to be given to them tomorrow. And so that outlines some of the reasons why that we are opposed to this rezoning. And what it amounts to is going from an they want to go to an S5, which would put a house on every 1/10 acre lot within that zone. And so this letter represents about 41 landowners that we were able to contact, and that's by no means exhaustive, and it's not a legal threshold. That's just to let you folks know that we've found opposition to this beyond ourselves in a very short time. It doesn't follow the general plan. That's what we feel about this rezoning. We think it violates the stated desire for a low-density rural atmosphere. Our plan, which I think was well-written and took some time to put together, says that we want to preserve our rural feel of our neighborhoods. Page 20 of the land use plan says that low-density housing should occur on that site, and that high density should be more centered towards Washington and 2600. There are no other subdivisions that have been allowed to use the R15 zone, or the R15 zone. So for those reasons and others that you can read there, we're very much against it, and we're hoping that you folks, if this comes to you, which we hope we can end this tomorrow night, but if it doesn't, then you guys have to give it a thumbs up or thumb down, and we hope that you will see things our way when that happens. I'm going to step down at this time. I think that's the basic introduction, and Mitch is here to explain a little bit more about the data on the map.
Mayor, ladies, gentlemen of the council, my name is Mitch Warren. Address is 2678 North, 750 East. I want to talk specifically to the 11 by 17 map that Al also handed to you that accompanied the letter. This is just a little bit of data just showing the contrast of the zoning. If this R-1-5 did go through with the Palace Estates, you can see the data in the yellow. The average lot size would be 0.14. If you look in the green area, the average lot size is 0.6. Now those lots are lots that directly touch the said Palace Estates. That's a pretty big contrast. That would be a 411% decrease in average lot size. We don't feel that falls in line with the general plan. It doesn't meet the rural fill outlined by the general plan. And also, there's been a recent rezoning right across the street from this Palace Estates in Rice Creek. You can see that in blue on your map. And that's recently been rezoned to the R110, R-1-10. We believe that that is more in line with the general feel and look of the current neighborhoods, and the high density of the proposed Palace Estates does not match the rural feel and the current look and feel. Maybe just a little bit of where I got the data. For the existing homes, I pulled all the parcel information from the Weber County parcel search, and the lot size for the proposed Palace Estates, I received that information from the planning committee on a civil engineering drawing outlining the proposed development. That's really, I just wanted some quick data so you could see the contrast and the difference compared to the surrounding development. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Hey there, JD Dalpass, 734 East, 2700 North Ogden, Utah. I don't probably have as strong opposing feelings as the others, but I will say I think that the lot sizes are extremely small considering where it falls in the neighborhood. I did just a little bit of research, and when you look at Legacy's 55 and older community, if you just pull up on the Weber County GIS map and you just pick and choose all the lots, the smallest one that I found was 0.13, 0.12 is pretty average. So I'm not saying that that would make a major difference, but if you're talking about aligning to, being a little bit larger lots so it's not so condensed into one little area, that would be great. Another thought is I don't know if there's going to be somewhat of a sidewalk that's going to go on the streets. I know that on Legacy, on a bunch of the areas, there's at least one side of the street that has a normal sidewalk to be able to walk in and out throughout the community. That would be, I think, helpful to keep it, if this ended up going through, to keep it somewhat normal. I'm worried if you look at it on a map compared to the neighborhood that we have going on in that area, it just doesn't seem very compatible. My house is 734 East, 2700 North, which is the cul-de-sac that's very close to these properties that are directly against it. And I'm sure at some day the property that's a field behind me will become a community. And, there's only so much control you have over that. But it just seems a little bit unnatural the way that it's coming together. And since there had been somewhat of an attempt to make the other side of the street, the other side of 850, where there's a bunch of new houses going in there, and they tried to zone it a little bit smaller for somewhat of a community similar, it's just completely unnatural. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Tara Warren, 2678 North, 750 East. Also regarding Pal Estates, the way we were notified was via letter about 11 days before the meeting scheduled for tomorrow. It was also during that time, the letter did say if you can't attend the meeting, you had to have your written comments, I believe, submitted 8 days prior to the meeting. The gentleman who is in charge of handling the written comments was out of town. Is he back? I think he's back now. Last week was spring break. I know there's been a lot of people traveling and a lot of people who I've communicated with who have not, are just getting back in town and are trying to catch up and figure out what's going on. So my request would be maybe give the people of the time a little more time to do some homework on it before the Planning Commission makes a decision. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
On this one, the Planning Commission can't approve it. It's got to come to us. They can approve it to a point. Then they had to come back here to rezone.
Good evening. Nate Toole, 2694 North, 750 East. I'm also here, just not to beat a dead horse here, but I'm here in regards to the Pal Estates also. I just think I agree with Al Trout's comments and Mitch Warren's comments on it that just by precedence that's been going on, it seems these lots are a little on the small side. I'm not against the development at all, but it does seem that the lots are quite small compared to what's going on in North Ogden City and the general plan and the goal of keeping it open, small town filling in North Ogden City. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I'm Kurt Child. I live at 2695 North, 850 East, and this thing surrounds me. So when I look out my front door, if you pass this, I'll be looking into two people's backyards because it starts right on the road. I knew when I bought the place I'd never be able to stop any development. It would happen. But I think this is ridiculous to let that kind of community come in where they're. You've got subdivision across the street, drive through Rice Creek and picture 10 more homes in there because that's what they wanted when they started. Go up the street by Brewers, R10, whatever they are up there, beautiful, big homes, nice lots. I don't see why we don't continue that in our area. I'm the one that's affected most by this. It'll destroy my property value, I believe. If you let this thing go that small of lots, I have an acre. And I do other things there, and I knew that would be shut down. I have no problem with that. That's not my issue. My issue is this needs to be kept in places other than in the middle of a group of people that have got nice homes and I'm not opposed to a 55, but do it down on 2700 to bottom out Washington. I don't know what else to say. I don't have a lot of confidence in anything. But you'll destroy my home, my value of my home if this thing goes through. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. If there's no further comment, we'll proceed with our agenda.
Mayor, can I make one comment real quick?
Sure.
Just the residents here, Rice Creek is right behind my house. And when Rice Creek was first proposed, it had, I think, 24 or 30 homes that were going back in there, and the residents, including my wife, they were very vocal about it, and it changed the development significantly. So I appreciate your comments here, and this is the first time I even heard about it was when Al called me, and this will be the first time the Planning Commission has seen this too. So please have confidence in the system, because the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, John, you'll go to Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, if they approve whatever they approve, it's going to have to be rezoned to a residential area, because it's agricultural right now, I believe.
So all our
RE20 right now?
All of our zones are technically single-family residential zones. Even the RE20, it's just more of an estate size zone.
Okay, so if they're going to change it to an R10 or even this R15 or the 1.5 zone, it would have to come back to the city council. So just so you're aware.
And council, just also so you're aware as well, so that the Planning Commission did look at creating the ordinance, but they haven't made any decisions about what properties to apply that zone to. I think, as you know, some people identified there's other places in the city it might work. And so this is just the first application that's come in with the new zone, someone asking for it. And as you all know, it's a legislative decision, and you'll have wide discretion to approve or deny those requests. And then the way it'll work is the Planning Commission will either vote yes or no, but because the request has been made for a rezone, even if the Planning Commission says no, it still comes to the council for a discussion. Just like if the Planning Commission says yes, it comes to the council, and the council can say yes or no, regardless of what the Planning Commission says. So you do have the final say in that.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion or action to consider the Victims of Crimes Grant and Part-Time Victims Advocate. Our presenter is our Chief of Police, Lance Call.
Thank you for the opportunity to address this matter. We have the opportunity to avail ourselves of some revenues that are available through the federal government. This is called a VOCA grant, which stands for Victims of Crime Act. It's a federal grant that it's distributed to the states, and it's managed locally by the state office of, we call it the CCJJ, which is the Commission on Crime and Juvenile Justice. This money is available for us to pick up a part-time victim advocate, which we've never had before in North Ogden. Currently, our victim advocate services are done on a county basis through the YCC. And when the officers respond on domestic violence calls or family fights or victims of sexual assaults, we then give them the phone number of the YCC victim advocate, and then they try to help us out. What this grant will allow us to do is to have our own employee here that does the same thing. It will give us some additional ability for follow-up on reported crimes and on domestic violence cases. This is very critical in the fact that once we respond to a domestic violence call and we take police action, if there's the primary aggressor in that domestic violence call will be taken to jail, the victim advocate steps up and helps out the victim and creates a personal relationship with them, and then guides them through the judicial process, and also makes them aware what resources are available to the victims. and additional counseling. And this has a significant impact on our ability to do our job, because it usually helps as we go through the judicial process. That victim isn't really keen on going to court and testifying. And if there's a victim advocate involved, that victim advocate will stay with that victim and sit with them through the court proceedings and help them and guide them through the process. And it makes a world of difference. It increases our success rate in dealing with domestic violence and reduces the recidivism when domestic violence calls. This grant is structured, it's a 80-20 grant. In other words, 80% of the money is supplied by the federal government. We are obligated to supply 20% of the total value of the grant, which is, in this case, is $9,100. And I apologize, on your staff report, it probably said $7,100. The reason for that is we've gone through this. We've been very close to the state office in generating this grant and the application. When we put that staff report together, I did not factor in the FICA, or the Social Security for that employee, which is that $2,000 difference. There is some irony to me that we're taking federal money to pay federal taxes back, but that's the case. But this grant, one of the benefits of this, and it's very advantageous for us, is that 20% can be supplied by in-kind trade or credit. We don't have to produce cash for that 20% grant. So everything that we're going to supply for this victim advocate, the office space, the car, office supplies, a phone, computers, printers, everything they need, are things that we've already got that we can just assign to them for their use, and the grant gives us credit for doing that. So there's absolutely no cash outlay on this for us, just in-kind assets. So we're excited about this. We're excited to be able to provide these services locally instead of on a county level, and think it'll make a significant difference in the law enforcement product that we deliver to the citizens.
Chief, is this something?
Discussions?
I was just going to say, is this something that is granted every year?
It is. In fact, the previous agency I worked at, and that was for 10 and a half years, we had a full-time victim advocate the whole time. It was totally sponsored by this grant. And we'll have the ability, I've never heard of anybody losing these grants once they get started. And we'll have the ability in a year to reapply and have it renewed. The difference, we'll have a little challenge in the next year when we renew it, because some of the things that we're supplying now in kind we can't get double credit for. So to renew this grant in a year will cost us $3,200. And the big difference there is just some of the things, like we're not going to be buying brand new computers every year for them. So,
is this an actual additional person?
It is.
Or,
it's a
so we're not
part-time.
retraining somebody already in the department?
No, this is a non-sworn position. It's a civilian position.
Okay.
It's 30 hours a week, and we figured that, for 52 weeks, 30 hours a week, that's 1,560 hours that this is going to cover.
I think it's great.
I think it's an awesome thing.
Even if it costs us $3,200 next year, I think it's awesome.
Yes.
What do we? I mean, what do we make a motion on this, John, or what? I mean, it says action. Just
Any other discussion? I fully support it. I think it's a great thing for our city.
So technically, the position won't, I mean, if the council's okay with it, I think the idea is that we'll start looking for that position beginning of June, so they can start beginning of the fiscal year in July. And we'll know by that point whether or not the grant has been awarded to us or not. We've already filed the grant, because it's one of those, they say the money's available and then we still have the option to take it or not. And we wanted to make sure the council knew and was in support before we said, yes, we're going to accept the money and fund that position.
I'm good with it.
Any other discussion?
Let's do
Have
it.
a motion on that?
Do we need a motion? I guess.
You do it.
Okay, I move that we accept the grant for victims of crime as presented by the mayor, by the chief.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, we'll begin the voting with Councilwoman Stoker,
Yes.
Councilman Swanson,
Yes.
Councilman Severing,
Yes.
Councilman Turner.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. That's awesome.
Next item is a discussion or action to consider an agreement with the Montessori School for an easement to install stormwater pipeline. Presenter, John Call, our city administrator and attorney.
So, council, I'm going to pull up a couple maps, and you're all fully aware of this project, but just for those who are in the audience that this might be somewhat news to them. In fact, let me pull it down just a little bit. So, this is the intersection with McDonald's and Smith's and all that. Right now, the city owns this piece of property that's a detention pond. We're talking about moving that detention pond down to this area on the Shooting Star Ranch or the Double Lot Ranch, depending on how long you've lived in the city. And then selling this for development and building on that piece of property in the new spot, this facility, which is a irrigation pond for Pine View, as well as kind of a swim pond or a paddleboarding pond for the residents of the city. And then on top of that, there will be 5 feet of stormwater storage as well. And so in order to get the water from this pond down to where we're going to build it down here, we need to run a pipeline behind the Montessori school, right along their fence. And we've worked out an agreement with them where we're going to buy that easement from them, and that's what this agreement is before you today. Essentially, what it says is that we are going to pay them about $17,000. It's $16,723.60, or $26.30. And they'll give us an easement that's 25 feet wide and roughly 1,000 feet long. And that'll give us enough to get in there and put our pipe in. We want to do it this year because they're building their junior high over there, and we want to do it before they plant their grass and get their fields ready so that we don't cause more disruption for them in the future. And so the Montessori schools approved this agreement. In fact, they've signed it, and we just need the council to essentially approve the expenditure of this will come out of the stormwater capital improvement funds, for this project you've already allocated roughly $1 million this year, but this will buy the easement. It actually helps make it ends up being a better project for us. If we were going to go a different route, we would have to run 2 36-inch pipes side by side, whereas with this we'll be able to run one 54-inch pipe, which is a big pipe, but it's one thing to maintain, one thing to worry about, as opposed to the 2 side by side. It's just an easier project for us. Yeah.
John, what's the value of the exchange for payment of their storm sewer impact fees for the new junior high?
So the way easements like this typically work is there's a certain percentage of the land value that you're taking. In this case, it's a 50% land value, which is $1.87 a square foot. If you were to multiply that out across the full width of the easement that we're taking, it's worth about $45,000. They also owe the city about $31,000 in storm impact fees. And so instead of paying us cash and then us paying them back cash, the impact fee code at the state allows them to do a dedication in lieu of fee, which means we then have to pay them the remainder for the property that we're getting from them.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions or?
Have an agreement number?
Yes, it's A8-2018.
Mayor, I'd move that we approve agreement A8-2018 approving an agreement with the Montessori School for an easement to install stormwater pipeline as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Swanson to approve the agreement with Montessori School for an easement to install the water pipeline. We have a second by Councilman Turner. In the voting by, any other discussion? We'll begin the voting by Councilman Swanson.
Yes.
Councilman Severin.
Yes.
Councilman Turner.
Yes.
Councilwoman Stoker.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is discussion or action to consider benefits for permanent part-time employees. Our presenter will be Annette Spenlove, our city recorder and HR director.
I'm sorry I don't have a grant for this, but I want you to know how valuable our part-time employees are to the city. My department has the most part-time, permanent part-time. We do have seasonal and temporary, but I feel like this, what I'm presenting, is important to these permanent part-time employees to keep them with us so we don't have such a turnover. I've had such a turnover of employees as in the city recorder's side of that, as we lost a full-time deputy city recorder and we created the part-time ones. And those two part-time deputy recorders have been invaluable to me and to the city. I believe they're dedicated, and I'd really like to keep them. And we've had a lot of turnover with the planning. The assistant that helps us in planning that works in my department, as Blake will know, Councilman Severin will know, as he said on the Planning Commission. And because of those turnovers, the time it takes to train somebody has taken away time from my deputy recorders and our office staff. It's the new one right now is just coming online, doing a great job. She's learning things, but she's still not got everything down yet. There's valuable time that's been lost. Currently, we have 13 permanent part-time positions, 7 in my office. We have 3 in Public Works. We have 2 in the courts and 1 in the police office. And it seems to be that's our trend is going to part-time. So I would just like us to be a little careful of the types of benefits we're offering them, and that we can keep them. I can only say for in my office right now, most of the people I have just want to be part-time. They don't want a full-time job. Some of them, and most of them that want that are dedicated to the city. Well, not most of them. Those, and I've got women in my office that are dedicated to the city. I've lost some because they want benefits, and they've gone to other jobs because of that. So I proposed in staff meeting, and I've done this a couple of years now, and we've pulled it out. But when I presented this first in staff meeting, that's all the department heads, everyone agreed that we should be doing something for them. And my original proposal was that all permanent part-time employees, we offer them Utah retirement, and along with that, in order for us to offer full Utah retirement, they have to have at least one benefit. And the benefit I suggested was the holiday pay that we all get, the full-time employees all get. And then it was suggested that we do make them be vested permanent part-time with the city 4 years. But and we put that on here, but I see that as a drawback because when they come, once they've been here 4 years, then they have to be another 4 years vested with Utah retirement before they can get that retirement. So that would be 8 years. I'd like to see that happen. I noticed on some of the feedback I've got back that, and I explained to you why I didn't have that ready for you tonight. But anyway, I noticed that some of them do it after 6 months, and it was a couple that did it after 6 months. Some of them just do it on hire. That's one of the things they give their people. Then it was suggested in staff meeting, why don't we pay into 401k 6%, and not the city pays 6%. The city, well, yes, the city would pay 6%, but this is how that would work. The city would give those permanent part-time employees 3% upon hire, and then if the employee vests 3% in, the city give them another 3%. So it'd be a total of 9%, 6% city, 3% employee. And then on this chart I gave you, it said 4 years vested. In our 401, we have to be 5 years vested before an employee can pull out of that or take with them what the city's placed in or whatever. And that would be 9 years vested. And we just put that in so you'd know what that was. Then we did the 401 match. If the employee put 3% in, then the city just put 3% in. Excuse me, I need to grab a drink. Anyway, my proposal is the URS, all those permanent part-time positions. It says all positions, but when I had finance figure this for us, it was all permanent part-time. They did. I don't feel like $38,430 is a lot for permanent part-time employees that we want to stay and that we care about and want to help them out. It'll stop the turnovers, which is costly, and the training, which is costly for us. So I'm bringing this to the council tonight, and in staff meeting on Thursday, we are going to figure out a way to fund this, how we can take things out of the budget if this is approved.
And that, how many employees are we
13.
Talking? 13? You probably said that, but I was probably spacing.
That's okay.
And so, council, just so you're all aware, we can't give part-time folks any benefit with the exception of 401k unless we also give them the URS. So right now our part-time employees don't get any holiday pay or anything like that. If it's a work week that falls on a holiday week, they either work the additional extra hours during the other 4 days, or they just go without that extra money they would have made on the holiday day. And so that's the way that the state system's set up, is you can't give them anything unless you basically give them URS. This is not proposing that we give them health benefits or things like that. It's just the state retirement.
So we need to give them the holiday pay in order to activate the URS, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
One benefit, which isn't a 401,
Right.
and we weren't, like John said, we weren't going. It wasn't going to be insurance or anything, health insurance or.
So the URS piece is just a little under $3,000 per employee per year, $29.56.
It's based on their salary. Yeah.
Right. I don't have any issues with it.
And Annette, you said you talked to Evan about this and looked at the budget.
Yes, we did. I have something in my budget I would give up for this, and we're taking it to staff on Thursday, our department heads. Of course, this will include some of the enterprise fund, but we have 3 employees that are enterprise fund, and the other 9 are our general fund. So we need to find things in the general fund we can give up for this.
I fully support this because in other places where I've been, this has been one of the things that has come up that's necessary to help employees establish some kind of a retirement. And and maintain stability in the employment.
Sounds like a win-win.
So you can make a motion.
Okay, I shall. Okay. I'd like to make a motion, Mayor, that we approve the action for benefits for permanent part-time employees.
I second that.
It's been moved to accept the action to consider benefits for permanent part-time employees. Been seconded. Any other discussion?
Just, I'd like to ask if we could at least find out what we're going to be cutting to pay for this, just so we know where the budget's coming out of before we ink it. You know what I mean?
It'll be reviewed in our budget session as we got coming up. We got another session. That's,
I'm not opposed to it. I just want to know where we're going to get this money from.
Sure.
Can I add one more thing? I need to know which one you would like me, that you would want me to work
if it's a URS or something like that, okay. So we need to have that in the action motion too.
Well, and I think council, it would be helpful, because right now there's several options. You could vest people after a year. You could do it upon hire. You could do it after 4 years. And so I think it might be helpful if you're okay with the idea of pursuing this, if you could give us some direction on which route you'd like to go, then we can bring back it as an official part of the budget, and we'll talk about it so you can see all the details, as well as where it's coming from, the money to pay for it, and things like that. Because we just don't have enough information for you at this point, unless we know for sure you want to just vest people when they're hired, and then we know it's going to be pretty much that $38,000 spread across the various funds in the city.
When do we vest our full-time employees at hire?
Yes.
Okay.
So the motion that Cheryl made was to consider the agreement. Was that right? And then, or consider the benefits, and then we will make a final decision when we get the budget report and all that other stuff in our budget meeting. Is that what you're saying, John, or is that what?
The motion then is to proceed with that.
Okay.
To approve it, or just simply proceed with further work?
Would be to approve to go ahead. Is that correct?
With including it in the budget, and obviously that the council will do a final approval when the budget's approved.
I feel good about that. Man.
At investment, I'm okay with at hire, since that's what we do with full-time employees.
That's our protocol.
Yeah, I'm okay with that at hire, and then the URS is what.
You okay with that?
Is
With
suggested,
the holiday pay.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the holiday pay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you want to amend your motion to that?
We just did.
Let me make sure I have it right when I go write it down, that you are motioning to amend your motion.
Amending it to include the holiday pay and do the URS, and then invest when they're hired.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Councilman Severing. Begin the voting. Councilman Severing.
Yes.
Councilman Turner.
Yes.
Councilwoman Stoker.
Yes.
Councilman Swanson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Council.
Thanks, Annette.
I just got to tell you, right now I like this meeting. It's 6.
If you say if everybody hurries, we can be out of here in less than an hour.
I'm liking this one.
Okay, item 5, we have, it's open now for public comment. If there's any further comment from the group. Appreciate your attendance here this evening and your comments. Comments now from our council, Councilman Turner.
Believe it or not, I have nothing to say.
Okay. Councilman Severing.
I don't have anything to bring up either.
Okay. Councilman Swanson.
I just want to make one quick kind of a heads up that I'll be sending to the council and mayor and John some information. I just came from the fire board meeting, and they pay a pretty hefty amount every other year or so to get crack sealing done on their little parking lot there, because they go out to a public provider for it. I talked with Mayor Call from Pleasant View. They also have their own crack sealing equipment there, as we do. And so we're going to look at partnering as the two cities to save the fire department and the residents at large monies that they could use other places by kind of doing in-house crack sealing at a much reduced rate over what they would pay to go out publicly. So as we get more information, just be looking for that. I'll send it out to y'all.
Good idea, Phil.
Yeah,
Was that your idea?
It was. Yeah, we can save close to $10,000 a year.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. That's all I have. And thanks for everybody that's here. We love it when we have an actual audience.
Councilman Stoker?
No.
I have no additional comments. Councilman, I just promoted you.
I respectfully decline.
Don't call.
So just for some information, as we've been doing the budget, we've been talking about doing the cost of living in that 4% range for the salary for the employees. I just received some communication from the Utah City Managers Association, and there are many cities that are doing 4%. That's kind of seems to be what everyone's shooting for. So we seem to be right on par with what other communities are doing across the state. So that's really good. And then
those communities that surround us.
Right. There was one city that was shooting for about a 6.25% increase, and I can't remember who it was, but that was, they might have had more ground to make up than we did.
You said cost of living. Did you mean merit?
Yeah, it's a merit. Sorry, our merit increases. I did say cost of living. So, and then the other thing, I lost my train of thought. What was I thinking in that? That we received an email about panhandling in the city, and so I did some more research on it. And there was a law passed last year that I didn't see go through under our transportation code, and it actually looks like at least one city has successfully defended against an ordinance. It's focused on pedestrian safety and keeping cars from stopping on high-speed roads or blocking entrances onto high-speed roads, as well as keeping people out of grass mediums over or under a certain size. And so there might be some things we can look at in our ordinance that either in the state ordinance that we can start to enforce or things we might need to add. We don't actually have any medians that people stand on currently, but it might be something to have in the books if we ever do add some more medians. But there might be at least it's looking like the code is going to be, it's at least held up by one federal court in a suit against Sandy. The biggest issue is the state code focuses on ticketing the people in the car, and the Sandy ordinance focused on the people standing in the grass median. It was smaller than 36 inches, and they just said it's not safe for people to stand there, so they were ticketing that individual. So I'm not sure if that would eliminate the safety concerns or other concerns if we're ticketing the people in the car, but it might temper some of those activities. So, okay. And that's what I've got.
Okay. Annette Spindler?
Just a reminder, there's no city council meeting next week. It's the annual conference, Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns, that the majority of us here will be attending. So our next council meeting is May 1st, and we will be swearing the new council member in that night.
Thank you. Chief, any additional comments?
If you don't mind, I know it's important to get out of here under 59 minutes. So, again, let me express my appreciation for the support on the safety advocate. That's going to make a profound difference in the quality of the product we deliver to the community. Also, there's been a lot of discussion on Mayor Taylor's Facebook page about crosswalk enforcement, and I need to talk to somebody to remove that picture of that police car that's on there. It's not one of ours. And but we've reached out to the state, State Highway Safety Council. We've got a grant that we will be doing targeted enforcement during the next 5 weeks. over the crosswalks, and we're picking the ones that were mentioned on the Facebook page, which is 2550, 2600, and then 2850 or 2900 up there where the canal trail goes across. And so we hope everybody is aware of that, be careful, yield to the pedestrians, and if not, we're going to be taking some action. Thanks.
Thank you.
Move to
Motion
adjourn.
to adjourn?
Second.
We've had a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor?
Yay.
Aye. Any opposed?
I know.
Believe it?
Best one I've ever had.
Thank you.